just heading down to Outer Harbour. Welcome to Lost in South Oz, if this gets used. Possible explore. Heading down the new expressway. I left old military stores or powder bunkers from World War II. And in the future, like Cold War sort of stuff. They close those 40s, 50s. There's a lot of history in South Australia. It's just, there's so much development happening here. It's, as you can see over to the left, sometimes you have to look hard to see the footprints of history. All that was all military land, or part of the military base over at what's it called, Edinburgh, a big Air Force base south of us, in front of us now, where they've flattened whole towns in order to put an airstrip in. As you can see, there's mounds of bunkers everywhere, and there's probably over 100 bunkers, some that people are now living in as homes, being fitted out, as long as they keep the outside looking pretty much like it used to. Like I said, not a lot of South Australians had issues there, just got to hit double click to center it. A lot of South Australians don't actually realise that South Australia is rich in history, not just railway history, but military history. South Australia played a very active role, I believe, in the First and Second World War, and later on. With the technologies and research into that. As for where has Lost in South Oz been for the last month or so, this car we're particularly driving now has been off the road for a while. As you know, air conditioning can get very expensive and cost us quite a lot to get it going, and it's been very hot here in Australia, reaching temperatures of over 40 degrees, which is around 105 Fahrenheit, in excess of that. So being in a car, as you might know, going on an Explore or driving to an Explore, means that this car's quite much hotter than that, and that meant that we were unable to do Explorers. So if you were looking for, anticipating us to do an Explore before now, it's I'm sorry, I can say as I'm sorry, and on top of that, I had a lot of medical stuff that I had to take care of, and as I keep saying to other providers out there, you've got to put yourself first, and I had a lot of medical stuff I had to deal with and being ill. Some of you might know that there's actually two of us that make up Lost in South Oz. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the drive. What we're driving through here is actually, a lot of this is vineyard country and farming country. And where we're currently driving to now, if we get there, is we're trying to put together a presentation for you on the quarantine station. quarantine station here was basically if you're coming to South Australia or you're coming into Australia, I think up until, I think it closed in the 80s, and in order to enter this country we had strict quarantine rules. So when you entered the country you had to be cleared, and if you weren't cleared then I guess you stayed for quite some time in a quarantine base. There was one in Sydney, and I think I've done a presentation on North Head, which was the other half of that facility in Sydney. I've got photos of that if anyone's interested, I can put up. But the one we're looking at presenting here, we did a walkthrough some time ago, and it's well, we didn't have our camera with us, as in the video camera, so we just took a lot of photos, and we'll do a montage to show you what it's really like, because it was quite an interesting place. That should be coming up at some point, if not in this video. And you know that basically, you know, they quarantine even animals there, and it's down on Torrens Island, which is now I guess the current version of the power station for South Australia. It had there was another home of the power station before this one, but they needed to put a power station somewhere, and the quarantine station was in this particular place, and they just moved it to the other island. Currently, well, originally it was owned by a farmer, and they basically, you know, the government's like, we need your island, and to do X, Y, Z, pick up your home and your farm and move somewhere else. So we moved to the other side of the island. This is just a background history, and they set up a quarantine station. Well, South Australia had I think one or two little small power stations, and they wanted to build a big one. So the quarantine station, by I believe the late 60s, 70s, whatever, wasn't taking as much customers, so they decided they needed to put the power station somewhere. So they moved the power station smack dab where the quarantine station was, and moved in the 60s, started construction, or 60s maybe earlier, started construction for the new quarantine station. And it was to where the farmer was. So, you know, bad luck for him, he had to basically get off the island. I believe that his, if you like, the ruins of his farmhouse is still there in part of the island. There's a cemetery there for anyone that may have died at the quarantine island, that no one has access to anymore because it's basically deemed out of bounds. Anyway, the power station's where the old quarantine station was. Between that and the quarantine station is the animal quarantine station, and holding yards, and access to the island is through the security gates at the power station, and only given via payment or ticketing on tours in History Week once a year, if you pay for it, and all those times is under high security. So it's very hard to get footage of the quarantine island itself unless you actually go in that time, and the tours are very brisk. So right now we're on the way, just like I said, we're just driving down there. I hope this has been helpful. So yeah, I'm sorry we've been away for a bit of time, but like I said, extreme heat in Australia in summer. This place can get up to almost 50 or over 50 degrees Fahrenheit, centigrade. I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, but I know when we're talking about 40 degrees centigrade, we're talking about 105. So, yeah. Which means basically, you know, unless you've got an air conditioner, you're not going anywhere. Anyway, this is, I think we're approaching Winfield. There's I believe a small power station to our right. That's all those power lines. The power lines you're seeing in the distance is the power lines running down to the big point. That's the small power station to our right, and it's gone. And then in the distance up there is the existing power station, the big one, and that's where all the power lines are running down to down to Torrens Island. Still on the expressway. As you can see, speed limit's 110 kilometers an hour here. I'm currently doing 104. But yeah, those big double power lines that you can see run smack into the big power station that supplies all the power to South Australia. And ends up to chimneys over there. Distance ends up right beside the quarantine station. And I guess when we get over here, this is, I guess, North Adelaide. These are the salt flats. They mine salt, so I don't know how it works, but they extract the salt from the water and they leave it in these big pads there, or the big lakes, and that's how they get salt. But it's really flat here. Those hills you can see are just part of it. That's the salt mine. Over there, I think that's the power station. Oh, it's over there to the right. I don't know, those are an industrial area where those silos are, but Adelaide's the other side of those hills. Yeah, that's just all industrial area in front of us. There are some very beautiful areas in South Australia, and there are some very industrial areas, and just like any other place in the world. Before we go to this explore, I'm going to get some lunch. Look ahead. This takes us up to Port Adelaide. This is all part of the new expressway. Except this is the Winfield, I guess, the passes here, the passes and stuff. It joins the old expressway. Yeah, I mean, this could be anywhere else in the world. A lot of expressways look exactly like this wherever you go around the world, so yeah. I believe they cut this out, this part of the hut, put the expressway through. And the same company's on either side. So it needs to be a transfer, waste transfer, I believe. One thing I noticed when I moved here from Sydney, that South Australia is just so flat. And New South Wales there are so many mountains. Well, there's a few. But, you know, in comparison, South Australia is pretty flat. Station is still to our right, but it's right and behind us now. We've gone sort of past it. Entering Port Adelaide. A lot of drivers here drive like, I don't know how to explain it. The speed limits are just there for guidance. You want to put it that way? Guidance. It's a 60 zone. He's pulling away from me. I'm doing 60. Yeah. I think speed limits are just here for guidance. I don't. Yeah. This is all the industrial area. Us into the main area of Port Adelaide. All the boats used to come in and all their houses and stuff. Anyway, we're going to pull over here. And then we're going to find somewhere that much. And possibly catch up with here in a day.